Welcome to the How to Heart Show, helping men reconnect to the heart and empower others as the leaders they were born to be. I'm Vincent Haasboom. My mission is to help you speak your truth, own your authenticity, and step into your power. The world needs the raw and authentic man right now. Join us if you're ready to make a change. Hey, what's up, Lions, and welcome to the How to Heart Show. Today, again, I'm always with amazing special guests, but today I'm really excited and happy to welcome Jean Border. She's an intuitive holistic healer, and we've met on a podcaster's cruise, and we started talking, and she mentioned really a lot of important key points with the frequencies, with the healing energy. And I got really intrigued because I also worked with energy, or also still work with energy, but also I'm an empath, I'm highly sensitive, and Jean mentioned a lot about that as well. And also for men, it's something woo-woo, and I still wanted to bring that up. So I asked Jean if she wanted to come on the show and talk more about this topic, and also for me to learn from her as well. So I'm really looking forward to have this chat with her because we postponed it for a little bit. So I'm really happy that she took the time and being here. So Jean, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hi, Vincent. Thanks for having me here. And I'll try not to be too woo-woo. I'll try to speak normal language.
That's good. So, Jean, before we start, can you share a little bit about yourself in a nutshell, what you do, and why you started with your journey as a healer?
Well, what I do is a lot of stuff, but what I enjoy doing is helping people figure out what the heck is holding them back from where they want to be. Because a lot of times it's our past or it's our history or it's our beliefs, right? That kind of stuff. And we hold on to pieces of those, and those pieces can be stumbling blocks to our forward movement. Now, how I got into all this stuff is that I've had migraines since I was teeny tiny. I mean, like a little tiny child. And I had them for decades. And I would have all the tests, and the doctors would say, "Oh, you'll grow out of them. Oh, when you're a teenager, your hormones will change and you won't have them anymore. Oh, when you're in your 20s, your body chemistry will change and you won't have them anymore." Well, decades later, they were still there. I've had all the tests. Every 5 years, you had to go back in and get more tests. All they could say was that I had brainwave patterns that shouldn't be there, highs and lows that they couldn't explain, they couldn't fix. So I had to figure it out myself. And that started my journey into energy work. So in the meantime, I was actually working a real job and supporting myself and traveling all over. So I have 36 years of leadership experience behind me, training, mentoring, teaching, all that kind of stuff, negotiating, all that business type stuff. And when I needed to come and support my elderly father who lived in a different state than I was in, I walked away from all that. So my six-figure job just went away, and I started supporting my dad emotionally, mentally, physically, that kind of stuff. Financially, he was set, but it's all the other stuff that you don't think about, being there so they don't have to make those everyday decisions that can be harder when you get up there in age, right? So I got more into what had helped me get rid of my migraines, which was the energy work. And I kept exploring that world and got certified in multiple modalities. And that's what I do now. I help small business owners who can't figure out, maybe they got into business to have more time and more money and realized they don't have either one. And they don't know why. And then I work with people who have chronic health issues, and we get them to a place of comfort, or sometimes they no longer need that health issue, and it your body heals itself, because that's what it was designed to do. If we give the body what it needs to heal, it knows how to do it, right? So that's another part of my business that I love. But the third part is what we're doing here, which is letting people hear about this stuff, speaking in a language they can understand. So it's not woo woo, it's science. It's science. If you cut your hand, if you keep your cut clean, the body will heal it, right? You don't need a million medications unless it gets infected and then you go to the doctor. Doctors have a place. I'm all for trauma medicine, I'm all for that. But just like our physical body gets wounds, our emotional body can get wounded. And we need to allow it to heal. And that's kind of where my work comes into play. Was that too out there or did that make sense?
For me, it makes sense. So, but the first thing that I also thank you so much for sharing. The first thing that came up to me, the question was the migraine, because I had a lot of people on the show. They have like pains and all these things, and they found the way of healing themselves. So, how was it for you to look for answers how to heal yourself? Because also for me, I was asthmatic, and with energy healing, I healed myself with that. So, how was it for you?
I started several decades ago exploring because I knew the doctors couldn't heal me. I mean, I've had all the medications, all that stuff. I would give myself shots. I would go into a dark room and throw up, all that stuff, right? I would miss work because of it. So I found I was living in Italy at the time. I'm a world traveler, but I was working in Italy at the time. And on weekends, there would be teleseminars like this, except just the recording, right? Not the video. And they were in English, so I loved that. So every Saturday I would listen to this teleseminar and they would have different people talking about different things. And there was this guy on there talking about how 80+% of all dis-ease in the body can typically be traced back to emotional imbalances. You heal the emotional imbalances, and those symptoms that your body is creating miraculously just go away. And I was intrigued by that. And so the first part of that, it was called the emotion code, for those of you who are familiar with that. The first part of that is teaching yourself how to muscle test. So I got really into teaching myself how to muscle test. And I really went all in on learning that modality. And so part of what I would work on was, okay, so was there an emotion that got stuck somewhere in my body that has anything to do with these migraines? And you do the muscle testing. The sway test is the easiest one, where your body sways forward for yes and backwards for no. And I'd get a yes. And I'm like, okay, what is this emotion? And there's a protocol, you go through it. Can I release this emotion now? Yes. And so I would just keep going through that protocol over and over and over. And there's a more advanced modality of the emotion code called the body code. And that gets more into things like parasites and toxins and misalignments, interruptions in different systems in the body. And so I went all in on that too. But like 3 months later, it dawned on me that I had not had to give myself a shot in a while. I had not had to leave work early. I had not had to go into a dark room and throw up. None of that stuff. And they've just been gone. They're just gone. And that's what happens with my clients. So when I first started going into this as a business, it really was, I was focusing on the migraines, helping people with migraines figure out how to either lessen the medication they were on or get off of it altogether, or whatever we needed to explore. That's really my migraine journey. But just like any business, it shifts and morphs over time. And so I'm 95% referrals. All my clients come to me because somebody else found benefit from it. And so, well, if you could help her with her migraines, can you help me with this? And can you help me with that? And that's how the business expanded. But
It's pretty cool, right?
that's what happened with your health issue. You found that trigger, that subconscious thing that your body held onto as an imbalance. and you resolved it and let it go, and then you no longer needed that symptom to show up for you. The symptom is a way for your body to tell you what's going on. There is something going on. Fix me, fix me. But we don't necessarily understand what it's saying, right? You get a headache, you don't know what caused the headache. Well, your body's trying to tell you something. You've had
Yeah.
too much of this chemical or this food come into your body, or you've been exposed to something too much and your liver can't process it out, right? So you need to stay away from a food for a little while until your body can naturally process that chemical out. We just don't understand what the body's saying sometimes, and sometimes we need somebody to help us out.
Yeah, like I said, it's pretty cool, right? That your body can tell you a lot of things. Because also with the doctor, when you have in pain, you go to the doctor and they give you medication, they give you pills or whatever. But I've learned also with energy healing, frequency healing, it's so powerful. Like I said, I had always these inhalers, and I was always in this panic when I started to hyperventilate. But once I started to use the energy healing, it was gone. I didn't have any more. I didn't use any inhalers, and I think I used it now for 4 years now. And since then, I never used any inhaler, and also never an attack, or that it was just my lungs. But also, like you said, we're also over consuming food content, so your body's always overloading, right?
Well, one of the things I have a lot of conversations, right? But one of the conversations that's important to have with people with migraines or other issues is typically pain is caused by something. And with food, with migraines, food is something that you want to eliminate that as a trigger, right? You want to see if that is the trigger. There are sensitivities that people have. Myself, I have a sensitivity to a chemical called tyramine. It's naturally occurring. It's in bananas. It's in chickpeas. So it's in hummus. It's in yeast bread. It's in all kinds of stuff, right? It's naturally occurring. But if the body gets too much of it, it overloads, and it's trying to tell you, okay, give me a break, give me a break. Let me process out what you've already put in. But if you continue to eat that same, we get into habits. If you eat the same food every day over and over and over, your chances are you're building up some kind of a chemical in your body. And at some point, your body's going to say, if you won't stop, I'll stop you. And that's when the chronic illnesses start to come into play, right?
Mm.
So I typically, when people come to me, I'm like, okay, tell me what all you've eaten, and we'll do muscle testing to see if any of them are issues. And if any of them are, we're like, okay, cut this out for 72 hours. That's how long it takes for your body to process out normally, right? Cut it out for 72 hours before you introduce it again. So don't eat the same thing every day. Go on a 3-day rotation, and then your body can calm down. It may be not be a food issue. It may just be emotional. Sometimes the body shuts down when we just take on so many stressors and it can't handle one more. And it'll say, if you won't slow down, I'll slow you down. It's to keep you alive. That's what your subconscious is there for. It's to keep you alive. And if you don't understand it's dangerous, it will finally say, too much danger. Stop. It's very interesting stuff.
It is, because also learning that as well, and now I'm also into the food as well because I'm always exhausted. I'm always tired, and I think also have a yeah something with the food that's triggering my body to overwork. So I'm always this tired and exhausted. So I'm also like you, looking for answers, always looking for answers. How can I improve myself? How can I feel better? Because living every day exhausted, when you go to bed exhausted, waking up exhausted, it's not fun. I can tell you that. But still, I always look for answers. I always look for ways to, yeah, to improve myself. So, Gene, I also want to make a jump to the energy. So, can you explain a little bit what it is and why it's so important?
Okay, we use in the energy world, we use different words, right? You'll hear people say vibration, or you'll hear them say frequency, right? Energy. Energy is what your body lives on. If I'm gonna make a comparison to the electricity in your house. Okay, you have electricity in your house, and it probably runs through wires in the wall, right? In the olden days, we had things called fuses, and now we have something called circuit breakers. But the idea is the same. If you have young girls in your home and they all have to use the same bathroom and they all have to use the same outlets and they all have to get dressed at the same time, they're going to plug in a whole bunch of appliances. And at some point, that circuit is going to overload and all the power is going to shut down. That's what happens in the body. You have energy highways, energy systems in your body, just like electrical wiring. And now science has come so far now that they can actually take pictures of the energy highway in the body. It's really cool. Science is really trying to catch up with this stuff. It's amazing. Quantum physics, if you're into that, you can read more about quantum physics. But just like with the electricity in the body, in the house, the energy highways in your body can become overloaded. If you think of cars on the highway, they're all going really fast and it's really great. But then there's an exit and everybody wants off at that exit, but there's a traffic jam. So now all these cars are stuck and they keep backing up farther and farther. And that can happen in the body as well. And you open up whatever's going on that exit, and now the cars can start to go. Your body can start to function naturally and you heal. It's the craziest thing. But it's just allowing the energy highways, we call them meridians, okay, to open up and for the body to flow. Anything that comes in also goes out. It's just like the waves in the water. Energy comes in and it goes out. If you go to to an acupuncturist, they focus on certain points on the body, right? And they're accessing those energy meridians to allow some people call it chi, right? Your energy in the body to open up and flow naturally. When you get blocks, that's when you start to have symptoms or you start to feel that's not me, right? All these things are little subtle signs that you've got some kind of an imbalance in the energy world, in your energy body. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but how do you know? How can you feel really that there's an issue? Because usually it's like, well, I feel some pain. Yeah, well, I walk with this pain for years, so it's normal. So how can people locate it and say, okay, I feel it now, so how can I change it?
I'm going to suggest that if you've never done it before, you get with somebody who has a little bit of experience or you start exploring. A very easy modality to learn is something we call it tapping. It's really EFT or the emotional freedom technique where you're touching some of these points. You talked about being anxious. That's a very, very common sign that there are emotions stuck in your body that are making you feel off balance. Okay. Anxiety is a medical term that I'm not comfortable using because I am not a medical professional, right? I don't diagnose, I don't treat, I don't do any of that stuff. I just work with people who want to balance out their body so that it can heal the way it was created to heal. Part of making the shift is the very first step is awareness, which I think is where you are. You're aware that it has happened for you in the past, and so it's possible. The next step is focus. And so you focus on, okay, if I want this to happen with this part of my life as well, what do I need to focus on to allow that to happen? And then you start taking action. You find a modality that works for you or a healer that works for you, right? You can do this all on your own. You don't have to pay anybody for anything. It's just that you, if you work with someone who's experienced, the change can happen so much more rapidly. That's the only difference. You can make the change yourself. And if I can throw something out to you, one of the things
Yeah,
that,
sure.
another thing that I focus on with my clients is language.
Yeah.
Absolutes in the language, and when we use an absolute when we're speaking, that shuts down all possibility for any change to happen. You said repeatedly, I'm always tired. Shift that. In the past, it seemed like I was always tired, right? That now there's a possibility for change in the future. And that sounds so ridiculous and woo woo, but it's absolutely crucial to understand that what we say, our subconscious picks up on and will make it true for us.
Yeah, I know. I know about that. Also, that your how we speak is also energy. So everything you say is you putting out energy frequencies out. So everything what you say is true. You put it in your unconscious mind, and you just it takes away like again. If you say like I'm ugly, I'm not worthy, you're gonna feel like that, and then you're gonna like wire your brain, your mind, and you're just gonna connect it. So everything that every time there's a situation, boom, you think about it right away because you programmed yourself to do it. So that's really powerful. That's something that I've struggled a lot because every time I told myself I'm great, I'm enough, I didn't believe it. I never believed it. So I had to constantly repeat myself with a smile, I'm good enough, I'm good enough. And then I feel this the switch. I'm feeling better. But the belief was so difficult. So how was it for you, for you, Jean? Also, I think also for you, you had a rough life, traumas, a lot of things that you have to find. So how was it for you in your journey from where you started and where you are today? How was it for you, your journey? I'm really curious.
Well, it depends on which part of my life you talk about. My dad was Air Force. So we traveled all over. I went to 10 schools. I graduated in 11 years. I went to 10 different schools in 11 years. So I was always moving. I always had new friends. I had a different life than a lot of people. But my parents always told me I could do anything I wanted to do and be anything I wanted to be. So different parts of my life might have been challenging, but I always had that base to come back to. Something that I think is important to mention is that what we believe to be true is true for us. It may not be true for the person next to us, but if we believe something to be true, it absolutely is true for us, and our subconscious will look for proof that we are right. So if we think the world is not a great place, not a safe place, if we think my boss is out to get me, and so I'm never going to get ahead, your subconscious is going to look for proof that that's true. If you think my boss is a jerk, but I can always, find another way to make this work and he won't be able to destroy me, then your subconscious will find ways to make that happen. So if we focus on the negative, we're going to see proof that that's true. If we focus on the possibility of a positive, the subconscious will find ways to start bringing about that opportunity. But we need to look for it.
And it's also how we create bad habits, right? We repeat those habits over and over.
One of the I'm going to give you an interesting exercise, and this happens in business a lot. Like I said, I have 36 years of leadership experience. So, at some level, you have to understand human nature and how humans work. And I could walk, it's a political world too, right? So, you could walk into a room, and if you're paying attention to people, I'm gonna use energy words. You can read their energy. You can read their agenda, and within just a few minutes of speaking to everyone in the room what their goal is, what their hidden agenda is. You can tell by the words coming out of their mouth what their focus is, right? Um, you've probably gone into a room where you just felt really weird, like that person just was very off-putting to you, and you didn't know why. He was nice. I mean, he was polite, but you're like, no, I'll just go over here. We all put off vibration, energy, right? And it could be positive or it could be negative. If you can go into a room and you notice in this part of the room, everybody's all happy. And on this part of the room, people are really mad. And you feel that in your body, right? And so, am I in the mood to complain today? And I'm going to go over with these guys and see what the heck is going on because maybe I need to know. That might be about my jerk of a boss, right? And over here are all the happy people because maybe somebody got a promotion. But we make these choices all the time. Am I going to live in the negative world? Because maybe it might just be a threat. We might perceive a threat, right? But that's all energy. We perceive these things and we act accordingly. But we don't think about that. But that's all energy.
And about also like me, I'm an empath and highly sensitive. So how can people discover that? Because I discovered when I was posting on social media, like I'm feeling like really down. I don't know why. I'm always angry and upset, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm so angry and upset. And then somebody told me, "Hey, you're an empath." And then I started to go on the internet and look for it. And then just puzzle pieces just connected everything. It was like now I understand why I'm feeling like this. And I also know that there's a lot of men out there that also feel the same way, but they label it like, oh, I cannot be this sissy girl, or I cannot be so sensitive. So can you tell a little bit more about being sensitive, highly sensitive, and being empath? I think it's for people really important to understand and figure out if they are, not to label it, but just to have an understanding.
Well, I'm going to go back to something that I said before. The first step for any change is always awareness, right? And that's what's happening now with the people who are listening to your show. They're becoming aware that there is some weird thing out there that people have been exploring, that the science is now being able to catch up with, um, where we are sensitive to energy. So for the first part, you become aware that something's possible. Then you focus on it, which is what you did because somebody said this and you're like, I don't know what that is. Let me explore that
Yeah.
empath thing. And then you took action to actually find out what's going on and how that was impacting you and what you could do to protect yourself. I'm going to use that word protect. Um, when I was younger, this is just an example for people. You want to know how people can figure things out. When I was younger, I could not stand to walk into a hospital. It felt, not going to use the word unsafe, but it didn't feel normal. It didn't feel right. I felt antsy. I would get tense. All of those can be signs of a sensitivity to emotions of other people. Okay? If you think about what goes on in a hospital, typically there is sickness, there is trauma, there could be death, there are frustrations of the medical professionals and the patients and the people coming to visit. There's fear. There is a chart that shows all of the emotions that we have and the frequency of the vibration for each of the emotions. Okay. Some of the highest emotions are like love. So if you want to look at like 500 and above, that's love. If you want to look at things like fear and guilt, shame is about 20 if you're looking at a vibrational chart. Shame is one of the lowest vibrations that we have. And if we live in shame, we are depressing our joy every day, right? But if you feel like you live in those worlds, you actually have a basic understanding of vibration and energy. You just not learned it that way, right? So fast forward to the future and me learning all this energy stuff, I finally realized I was sensitive to all that emotional stuff As soon as I walk in the hospital door, it would just hit me in the face. And so we all have an energy, a normal vibrational frequency that we live in, right? And it fluctuates with whether we're happy or sad or fearful or feel guilty or whatever it is. But sometimes we notice an instant change, and it's almost like getting hit in the face. And energy slaps can be just as detrimental as physical slaps. That sounds weird, but that's one of the things that comes up in our work is that you've heard the phrase, "Oh, they stabbed me in the back." You've heard that, right?
Yeah.
When someone you thought you could trust did something so out of left field that they broke your trust. It was like a stab in the back. And we call that an energy weapon because your body feels that just like a stab in the back, a slap in the face. It was like a slap in the face. Well, they didn't slap you physically, but emotionally, you felt offended by whatever it was, right? These are normal things we experience. And just like we have a physical body, we have an emotional body, we have spiritual, we have a mental, right? We have all these parts of us. I just happen to work with I'll say the whole body instead of just the physical body, where medical professionals typically work with just the physical body. So if you notice you're getting slapped in the face and your energy just shifts and you don't know why, or in your case, what in my world, I'm going to use my world because it's easy for me to explain, right? There was a Charles Schultz cartoon way back in the day, and there was a character called Pigpen. And he was just a little boy, and anywhere he'd walk, the dirt would just stick to him. He'd walk across the dirt, and the dirt would fly up and get all over his pants and all over his clothes. And if we don't become aware of how much of other people's dirt we're picking up and let it go, we can get to the point where, like you just didn't feel like yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
we've taken on the emotions of other people's stuff, and it's not ours, but we haven't let it go. So we just need to let it go and get back to who we were created to be. So there are techniques, there are ways to shield yourself before you go into a space, or before you leave your home, or before you go into a grocery store, or for me, before I walk into a hospital. Because now I can walk in with no problem. But before, I never could understand how people could work in a hospital. That was just beyond me, how they could even do that, how they could function. I didn't understand it. And now I can go in and visit somebody in a hospital and still feel like myself. Very weird. So I don't know if that was helpful, but yeah, so you
For
can look
me,
up techniques for shielding, right?
yeah, for me it is because I remember once I go to places, I felt so overwhelmed. I felt so heavy. But
Yeah.
once also the techniques that you mentioned, I try because I'm not super aware of it. But once I'm aware, it's like, okay, I need to shield myself. And in the beginning, it's like, "Psh, I'm not gonna shield myself. I'm not gonna do that." But I really underestimated the power of energies and frequencies from people, but also from our world. And then I was like, okay, I really need to start doing this because if I'm doing this, I feel better. I don't feel like I felt the entire world on my shoulders and I felt like awful for days and I couldn't let it go. But it was a process. But it's so important. And I think, like I said, I think a lot of people underestimated how powerful emotions can be because sometimes a smack on the face can hurt and then a couple of hours is gone. But if somebody really hurts you, really emotionally hurts you, you can walk for days or years or decades with just somebody rejects you or saying something to you. So that was for me also my journey as well to let it go and also go into therapy and learning how to cope with it and understanding it. So that was for me also, like you said, it's perfect what you said. Be aware, be aware what's happening to you. And I think a lot of people are just walking over it just moving on and shove it on the side so they don't have to look at it. They don't have to go into the trauma or into the pain points because we're afraid to see what we find out. I think that's really the key point, right? Just be aware and start making it change. Like you said, you can read books, you can do all these things about it and talking to people, but eventually you also have to take action.
And you brought up some things that I just want to mention. Habits can rule our lives, right? Becoming aware of them and using energy work to let them go and make a change. It sounds crazy, but it works. And you don't have to relive the trauma. That is something that obviously I'm getting emotional. That frosts my cookies, if that if you understand that one. I really don't appreciate anyone who forces anyone to relive any trauma. There is no need for anyone to re-experience trauma they've had in the past. There are so many very gentle energy techniques that will allow you to find some measure of relief from that without going back and re-experiencing that. If you've got a therapist or an energy worker who is having you relive trauma, find someone else. I'm not a medical professional. That's my personal opinion. There's no need for anybody to relive trauma. I've had clients who have come to me and they get sick during the period of time from Thanksgiving to New Year's every year, and I didn't know why. Well, doing energy work, it just came up that, oh yeah, I was raped and almost killed by a serial killer, and it happened. You know, he broke into my
Yeah.
apartment and blah blah blah, and we dealt with the trauma, and now no more sickness over the holidays. Our bodies are made to keep us alive. And so our subconscious will do whatever it needs to do to keep us safe. Everything is filtered through the lens of, is this safe? So is making this change safe? Is taking this promotion safe? Is changing this behavior safe? Or is it going to put me in an unsafe situation? Right? But habits are not so hard to change once you become aware and you focus on what you want versus what you don't want. If you keep focusing on what you don't want, you're going to get more of it. Focus on, figure out what you want, focus on that. Tell your subconscious, that's what I want. Get me there. And now all your decisions will be filtered through that lens of, this is the goal, not the old stuff. I'm done with that. This is the goal. This is the promotion I want. This is the job I want. This is the relationship I want, not the old stuff. Because, you know, I did that. Thank you very much. I want this now. Make this happen. You become aware of what you want, you focus on it, and then you take strategic action to get you there. I know I make it
But
sound
most
so simple.
you make it sound so easy, but most people choose also stay stuck. Why is that? Why is that people to, is it really to be safe?
It's to be safe. There, we need certainty in our lives, but we also need uncertainty to feel alive. It's getting the right balance of that. People who are stuck inside their homes and can't go out, they're so out of balance on the safety side that they've not given themselves permission to even take a step onto the front porch because it's unsafe. I'm certain that I'm safe if I'm within the walls of my home. Well, are you really? Or could a fire burn down the house? And if you don't go outside, you're going to die. But we believe that to be true. So for us, it is true. We just need to start believing that something else is possible. Something else you said that I want to go back to, when you were talking about affirmations, repeating affirmations over and over and over. If you don't believe it, you're creating more resistance. So I would say next time you want to set an affirmation, temper it just slightly so that the possibility of something else is there. Not, I am a millionaire. Your subconscious is saying, no, you're not. You're a liar.
Yeah.
So you wasted your time. And now your subconscious doesn't even believe that you know what is true. Right. So I can work towards being a millionaire. I will work towards being a millionaire. It's all right if I work towards being a millionaire because you're not there yet, but it's a possibility, right? So all of these kinds of things, conversations inside the head, open possibilities, and that's really where you want to go. If you're so mired in the negative, I can't change. No matter what I do, I can't change. I always fall back on bad behaviors. I always cheat on my spouse. I always end up getting drunk, whatever it is, right? Open up the possibility for a different outcome. Don't use the always, don't use the never. That was absolute words. I'm always pinging clients on that. Don't use absolutes because then there's no opportunity for change or for growth or for reaching your goals, right? But if you're using affirmations, they're very powerful. Just don't shoot yourself in the foot by repeating something that your subconscious is saying, no, you're not. No, they're not. No, it's not, because it negates all the work you're putting in.
Well, Jean, it's really powerful. Also, the things that when we start having this conversation, and it's really really good. I really enjoy it. The thing that what came up to me is really safety, because I also work with an energy healer, and she always mentioned to me, you have to learn to be safe. And as a man, it didn't connect. It was like, why do I need to be safe? I'm a man. I can take care of myself, but I never felt safe. And I always had it with women. When saw somebody that I was attracted to, I wasn't feeling safe to walk up to her. I wasn't feeling safe to say hi to her. I wasn't feeling safe to start a relationship with her or go intimate with her. I never felt safe. So can you explain how important it is for, because also you work with women, how important it is for a man to be safe, not just to be safe in your own skin, but also in your own environment, like we discussed with energies, also to feel good, but for men to actually feel safe for who they are. I think it's really important for men to understand that you also need to feel safe with not just your partner, but also with yourself. Because I remember once I tried to be a people pleaser. I always wanted to keep people good. So they're safe, they're good. But I never looked at my own safety. I was just overworking myself. I was not trying to hurt people or set my boundaries. I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't putting myself at the first place. So can you give some advice or tips for men to really, like you mentioned also with the frequencies, with the energy, how to be in balance with yourself, but also feel safe and comfortable? Because you hear in the media it's like, oh, spirituality, woo, woo, wah, wah, all this crazy stuff. You need to follow the narrative. You need to go to your doctors. Where can you start doing this and really start learning to trust yourself? Because, like you said, your body will tell you what you need. Your body will tell you if this person is right or not. The red flags will come up. You feel something is off with this person. So how can we start feeling safe, but also to be aware of the feelings and the connection with the mind and the heart?
I'm going to go back to a word that you said in the middle of all that, and that was boundaries. You have to decide what you want, and you have to decide. Decision is a big deal. It really is. We act like it's nothing. We just do whatever. Not true. You have to decide what you want. And then you have to decide what you're willing to do or give up, or what you're not willing to do or give up in order to have the life that you want, and the relationship that you want, and the job that you want, and feel confident in yourself. So many times we don't even know what we want. Maybe, and I'm gonna go, okay. Since you brought up the attraction thing, I'm gonna go there.
Okay.
So we see somebody over there and, oh, they look really cool. And then we start having a conversation in our head before we ever go up there. And we make assumptions based on what they're wearing, how they're smiling, how their hair is, who they talk to. And if we go up there very quickly, we don't make too many assumptions because we haven't given ourselves time to create a story, right? But the longer we wait, the bigger the story gets. And depending on the person creating the story, either we have really high self-esteem and they're just not good enough for us, or we have very low self-esteem and, oh, they're so high above me, right? Either way, if we're out of balance, we never make the connection with that person because we're afraid story might be true. Rather than finding out the truth, the story in our head, what we believe to be true, is true. Period. They may be the sweetest person on the face of the earth, but if we have decided that, oh no, that she's not talking to anybody, so she must be really stuck up. Well, maybe she's really shy, but you didn't take the opportunity to find out if she's shy or if she's stuck up, right? So it's very important that we pay attention to what we need in our lives to feel good about our lives, not just to have somebody to be with, because a lot of times that's really not healthy, because we have to set boundaries. And that's not a word a lot of people like. They just want to go with the flow. But just like in business, you have to set business hours. You have to decide when you're willing to work with someone. You have to decide how much you're going to charge, and they can either pay it or they can't. You have to decide how many freebie hours you're going to allow for the month. You also have to decide these things in a relationship. I'm willing to go with someone who's been married before and has children now, or I'm really not good with children and I don't want to take on that skill. So I'm not willing at this point in my life to take on that step. So you have to set a boundary that will make you feel right within yourself for today. Always looking to the future and understanding that just because you make this decision today does not mean it's forever. It's just for right now. But you have to set boundaries, right? Because, just like I said before, every decision you make comes through this lens of, is this safe? Is it safe to walk up to that really cute girl? Is it safe to only be with my wife? Or am I missing out on something else? And is it okay for me to go there because my wife will never find out that I cheated on her? So I'm safe that way, right? It sounds really weird, but everything is through the lens of, is this safe? And so we have to take steps because we need to, that balance between certainty and uncertainty. Oh, I'm certain she's stuck up. Well, is she really? Is it logical or is it your story? So safety is very important. But it has to be safety based on awareness and being honest with yourself, which is again hard.
Yeah, it is. And once you were telling this, I get all these questions, or more like these stories in my mind, because I was always, when I saw cute girls, like, oh, what if she's not single, or what if she's this and this and that, and I was make it so big and big and big, and I froze up and I couldn't walk up to her, and then I walked away, and then I was so angry at myself. Just why could I just walk up to her and say hi, just hi? But then I just kept on this behavior over and over again. But then I learned it was really also the trauma, because I was really traumatized when I was younger, and I was really disconnected from myself. So I was always like, before I could say hi, my body was just like frozen and I couldn't do anything. And I didn't understand why. But once worked with somebody, I did EMDR, so I know why you're against it, and because it pulls you right back into the trauma, and it sucks it right out. And it was hard, but it really made me understand how powerful traumas can be, and how they can be in a loop of your life and repeat over and over again. Every time I saw a girl, it was with every woman I saw, I froze up. I couldn't say anything to her. And then I learned it's really the trauma. So how important is it, Jean, for us to heal our traumas? Because I think a lot of people overlook the traumas that they've been had as a child or as an adult and never dealt with it.
I'm going to throw this out there just because I think it's important. I have a background of My dad was military, and I worked with the military for decades. Um, I'm in the U.S., and so many of our guys and girls are coming back with trauma they've experienced in the field, combat trauma, separation trauma. Trauma can impact your life in ways that are not readily apparent. One of the one of the not easiest, one of the most common symptoms of any a lot of traumas is not being able to sleep at night. If you can't sleep, your body cannot go into healing mode. Healing happens in the physical body in the early morning hours, like between midnight and 6, some of those hours in there. And if you can't sleep, your body stays in a more tense situation. For a lot of people, they live in what we call fight or flight, and that's a trauma response. And if your body is always in that and it never shuts down, it never trusts that you're safe enough to heal, your physical body will suffer because you can't go without good sleep and expect your body to optimally perform. It's not possible. So if you find yourself not being able to sleep, I'm going to suggest you've got tension in your body, you've got tension in your world, you've got stress in your world. And if you begin to address the stress, begin to address the tension, or in a lot of cases, the trauma, that we don't want to necessarily call things traumatic experiences. They were just bad, right? Because we don't want to carry that label. We don't want to say, oh, no, I'm a damaged person. But sometimes things were bad. And if a common thing to do is, well, I'll deal with this a little bit, but I'll worry about the rest later. Okay. So now you've got this pot of stuff in your body. Oh, I'll worry about that later. And you stuff it down. And then something else happens and you deal with this part, but I'll worry about that later. And so you stuff that down and you keep stuffing things down. And finally, it's like a pressure cooker. If you know what that is, it's a, you know what a pressure cooker is, right?
Yeah.
Eventually the pressure gets so tight that it just explodes. And maybe we go off and we explode, or we get really angry and we don't know why. We don't know what caused it. I don't know why I feel this way. I just am so angry. Only really, if we start unpacking that pressure cooker, we also unpack the tension in the body, and we unpack what's keeping you in danger mode or I'm not safe mode. And slowly our body calms down and we begin to notice the birds outside, or that cute girl at work, or that promotion potential. And we notice we're sleeping a little bit better at night, right? All of those came because we started to release that old trauma, the old issues that we held on to, thinking, I'll just deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. But later never comes until your body says, enough. If you won't stop, I will stop you.
Also, Jean, thank you so much for sharing. What really came to mind is also the flight and fight response, and that for me was really key because I was always in the flight response. I always wanted to run. If I was in a conflict with somebody, I wanted to run. I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to talk with this person. Always running. When I saw a cute girl, run. Always running. And it was so annoying, and my body was just shaking. I was pumped up with adrenaline. I just wanted to run as fast as I can and never look back. But then I learned this is not the answer because I can run away from my problems, but it probably will go come after me, or I will keep it to myself. And sometimes I couldn't sleep at night because I was just moaning these conversations in my head, like with this person, and it was just like I cannot take this anymore. So I think also for men, it's really important to talk about your emotions, talk about what you're dealing with, because in society for men, it's like you need to be tough, you need to be strong, but we really need to talk about our problems, even though you're afraid to talk about because you feel ashamed. We have to talk about it, and that's what I really learned from myself, because I did exactly what you said. I put everything inside of myself until the cooker just exploded, and I started crying, or I just went away, or I closed myself off in my room because it was overwhelming. I wasn't feeling good. So for men also, because women, they love to talk, and they talk about the emotions, but for men it's also really important. So can you share more about how important it is to talk about your emotions and your feelings, especially for men?
Well, some men and some women don't like to talk about their emotions because it's not safe. Because if I tell you, now you'll use it against me, and that's
Hmm.
one more piece of ammunition that I'm not going to give you. Honestly, right?
True.
Yeah. So some guys and girls deal with all this stuff by, like you said, shutting down, going inside, but others do it with anger. Some
Yeah.
become bullies because you're not going to mess with me. I'm going to keep everyone away that way. Anything out of balance is something that we need to address, right? Whether you're too much inside or you're throwing too much out. Is that you? Are you way out there? Are you way in here? Or is there a happy medium somewhere? Do you feel like you're a little bit this much or a little bit into yourself? When you come to a point where you believe that you want something to change, but you're not sure what it is or how it is, that's when you find someone you trust. And I'm going to use the word safe again. You need to find a safe space. Just like there are good and bad in any profession, there are good and bad therapists, healers, everything. If you go to one person who doesn't quite make you feel comfortable, that's not the right person for you. Doesn't mean they're wrong. They're just not a good vibrational match for you. Okay. When you go into that room, you feel comfortable around this person, or you feel nervous, antsy, tense around this person. You're There's a Beach Boys. I don't know if you remember that old group, American group called the Beach Boys. They had
Yeah.
a song called Good Vibrations. It's exactly
Uh-huh.
like that. Some things pump you up, make you feel good, make you feel strong, and other things are like, no, not for me. Find what makes you feel good, because that's the whole point, is to empower yourself. The change happens because you initiate it, not because some therapist does something to you, right? It's you doing the work, you making the decision. I want to explore this. I'm not going to give anybody ammunition against me, but this person is safe enough that I trust that they have my best interest in mind. And a lot of times you can find a friend to blow off steam with, right? Sometimes that's useful, at least in the short term, but sometimes you need someone who has a little bit more training in releasing the stuff from the pressure cooker and going down a little bit deeper in the pressure cooker. But once you get to the point where you believe in your head there's something else going on, then that's your subconscious trying to get your attention. And you'll be able to go for a certain amount of time. And finally, it'll say, if you won't pay attention, I'll make you pay attention, and you'll blow up. And then you'll get court ordered anger management, classes or something. So it is important to be aware. Awareness is always step one. Be aware of what's going on in your head, the stories you're telling yourself about yourself, right? Focus on what you want. And then decide what actions will actually help you get there. Is that just talking to a friend? Is this really a surface issue and that's all I need? I just need to find somebody and go out and have a nice, comfortable evening to de stress. Maybe that's all it is. But maybe it's something deeper, like you were saying, something that happened way back in childhood. That's going to require someone with a little bit more finesse. I'll use that word, right? A little bit more training, who can help you release stuff without reliving it. Because reliving it recreates the emotions. If you go into a movie theater and you watch a really cool movie and you're all an action movie, right? And all these high speed chases and your body gets really tense and you get really into it. And then you leave the theater and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so good. And you're so tired from all the adrenaline. That's how your imagination works. When you go back and relive that experience, your body is recreating all those emotions that you want to get rid of. You don't want to recreate them. So when you experience trauma, reliving it is really not necessarily in your best interest. And again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. I'm not the person to go to for that. That's my personal belief. But that's also my experience. You don't need to relive that stuff.
Yeah, I agree because if you don't face it or don't heal yourself, you're gonna be in this loop and your trauma will be in the driver's seat and it will take over your life. And before you know it, you snap out of it and you lost 20 years of your life and you say, well, what just happened here? And you're just on autopilot. And it's such a shame because you see a lot of people just thinking that they're okay, but they're not okay. They try to hide in front of a mask and say to themselves, I'm okay, when they're not feeling okay. So, also, like you said, you need to also be true to yourself. If you're not feeling okay, don't feel okay. You don't have to be pretend that you feel okay for other people because you put so much burden on yourself. You put so much stress on yourself to be somebody or feel that you're not, and it's awful. I've done it so many times pretending that I'm feeling good. Many people in the past said to me, "Hey Vincent, how are you?" "Yeah, I'm good, I'm good." And then I walked away and I started to cry. It's like, this is not okay. I really need to do something about it. But in my journey in the self-development and talking to people like you, I create this awareness, and like you said, I'm looking for answers. I'm not just have this one topic or one thing and that's it. No, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep looking for answers, and it's really important. Like you said, I think that's the most important thing. Awareness is key to everything. If you're not aware of what's happening to you, you're not gonna see it, and it's gonna life gonna take over you, and you're not gonna set boundaries. You're not gonna take responsibility of your life, and that's so sad because you have so much potential inside of you, and yeah, you don't see it. So that's really that came up to me and that I wanted to say. But Gene, it's been really cool. I'm really like having this chat with you. I have so many more questions, but yeah, I'm gonna close it off a little bit. But the thing that I want to ask you, Gene, is what was for you the biggest challenge in your life and how did you overcome it? And what was the biggest achievement that you gained in your life?
My biggest challenge was probably the migraines because I had them for decades and decades and decades, and I did everything every medical professional said I needed to do. I mean, in first grade, I was taking pills in class without water because you couldn't get up and go to the water fountain every time you got a headache. So I would carry my pills with me and take pills in first grade, you know. So my getting letting myself let go of the migraines was probably the biggest challenge in my life. Um, what's what was the second one? What was my biggest accomplishment?
Yeah,
I guess taking care of my parents. My family is big for me, so I supporting my family. That's probably my biggest accomplishment. Yeah, I had a really nice career. I've got a really nice energy business. I got a really nice podcast, but my biggest accomplishment is supporting my family. So
that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. The thing that comes up to me, and still I want to touch on to this a little bit, is also the healing for the energy because like I said, energy healing or frequency healing helped me to take away my asthma. Also, that it's not my asthma, it's asthma. But usually we say it's mine because we label it, we make it ours, but it's not. So again, you need to be careful what you're saying to yourself. But for me, what for me is really important, and I always believe this is also the big pharma. We're always running to the big pharma for pills and doctors when there's a lot of ways for us to heal ourselves within how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself, anger management, balance. So, how important is it for you to start taking care of yourself? And a lot of people said, I don't take as much medication anymore as I did in the beginning because I eat better, I have more better connection with myself, I sleep better, I'm exercising. So, can you, more like in a nutshell, how to step away more from the big pharma and the pills and the medication because they make you do it, they make us sick so you can run after those pills. But how can people start really heal themselves and take less medication or stop completely?
Okay, that's a very big whole episode topic, but
I know.
I'm going to touch on a few things. Number one, pharma is not in business to create your wellness.
Exactly.
The medical profession exists for trauma care. You break your arm, go to the doctor, please. You get in a car wreck, go to the doctor.
Yeah.
They also exist for sick care if you get really sick, right? They also exist for diagnostic purposes. That's what I use them for. I take zero medications. Uh,
Same
people
here.
people are shocked at my age. I take zero medications. Um, now, once in a while, I do take B12 or something, but nothing, nothing daily, whatever.
Yeah.
But just like when I would in business and I would walk into a room and I would read the agenda of everyone sitting at the table, right? You know what their goal was during those negotiations. You have to understand where what the agendas are for the people you work with. So, if you go to a medical professional who has been trained and their training has been financially supported by pharmaceutical companies, what is the agenda of the pharmaceutical company? Their bottom line is profit. It is not wellness. They don't go to their
Hmm.
shareholders and say, we helped 100,000 people get well this month. No, they say our profits went up this much this month. When you watch a commercial on TV in the States, it's really big. I'm not sure about where you are, but in the States, pharmaceutical commercials are on all day long. But at the end, they have these disclaimers. Oh, it's been shown to cause cancer. It's been shown to cause suicidal thoughts. It's been proven to XYZ. But people ignore the little disclaimer and say, oh, that's going to give me more energy. Oh, that's going to lower my A1C. Oh, that's going to whatever, right? What is the agenda of the commercial? To make more profits for their company. It is not to make you well. It is your responsibility to take care of your wellness. That means look at your foods, look at your medications. When you start taking this medication, will it create a side effect? And how many more pills are you going to have to take to counteract that side effect? And this one creates a new one, and now you've got a new pill, and that's got a new side effect. And so now you've got a cascading effect of side effects that you're trying to address when really, chances are, there was an emotional or physical imbalance in your body that the pill was never going to fix in the first place. So, my goal anytime I work with chronically ill people is to see what medications they're on and see if there's a way we can balance their body so that they can have the discussion with their doctors about my levels have changed. Do I really need this one anymore? Right. And to lower the number of medications or the dosage or whatever of the medications that they're on. Because Typically, we don't have a deficiency of Prozac, right? there, there is not a deficiency of Prozac in our bodies when we get a little bit whatever. And so we're not treating the cause, we're treating a symptom or maybe muddling a symptom so that you don't feel it so much, but you've not addressed the issue. It is your responsibility to decide. Like we're back to awareness and decision. Do I want to be in charge of my own wellness, or am I going to give away all my power to some company or a medical facility or a TV commercial who has a different agenda perhaps than I do? But it's all decision. Maybe that is the right decision for you. Maybe it's not. But it's all got to come down to what is your goal? What boundaries are you setting for yourself? How much influence are you going to allow someone else to have over your well-being? I was on my soapbox. Sorry about that.
No, no, that's I love it. It's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing because you're spot on, and I've also been into that journey as well. Especially when I went to the with the energy healing, I also learned about taking care of yourself, and then I learned the big pharma and all of that, and the medication. There's also some really good documentaries about people talking about it, but it's so important because we are so relied on them for us to heal us. But you said they're not for
That's
they
not their business.
no, they cannot make a profit from healthy people. That's the thing. But people think they are being treated. They feel the pain, not the pain anymore. But then a month later, they need to go to the doctor because my neck is starting to hurt because of the pill that they took. So it's all the compound effect of pills and medication. So you're eating another pill to treat the medication pill that you took in 4 months ago. So it's a loop of profit for them. It's insane, but people they just not aware of it. So what I want to do, and if you're open to it, I want to do in the future an extra episode more talk about this topic because people are afraid to talk about this because I know how big pharma is and what they can do. But still, I feel it's important to talk about it, even though if it's creating the awareness, because that's usually crucial for people to feel better. It's not they think if they take the pill, the problem is gone, but they numb the symptom. It's still there, but you're not even aware of it. And maybe people are ashamed of it or they don't want to say like, okay, I'm wrong, but still it's so important because you see people suffering from them and all they care about is profit when you can have a better, healthier life. So yeah, if you're up for it, I want to invite you in the future again to have an episode because you said it can be an extra episode about this because it's deep.
Yeah. And I would suggest for those of your group who are open to it, when you feel a physical symptom in your body, I would suggest trying to find the source rather than just trying to hide the symptom.
Exactly. True. Because everything starts with something. Even though if people have so much pain, maybe it's a trauma, or maybe they're so angry all the time that they never process it or they never released it. So the body, what I read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and that just opened my mind. It would just blew my mind how powerful the body is and how much it stores and the information. Also, like you said, it's not just our physical body; it's also our energy body. It takes everything in and remembers everything. So it's so important to really understand how the body works and and again the body remembers everything. It keeps score of what you do, the traumas and everything. So you said it really well, Gene. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed the talk, especially the the parts of the energy healing and so important. And I really hope that we can help people have more understanding and create awareness that they also have the power to heal themselves. And that's really powerful. Yeah, that's the thing. We are really powerful. We are such powerful. We have so much power inside of us, but we're so afraid to look to ourselves in the mirror, so like, I'm powerful, I can do this. And it was for me too. I had so much shame, so much anxiety, but once I took the small steps and really learn and feel powerful that I can do it, you feel really good, you feel really powerful. But also, it's how the people you surround yourself, right? It's so important. Also, you see with your business, if you have lousy clients or you have lousy business partners, there's no business. It's really hard to have a business, right?
But that's also a choice and a decision and a breakdown of boundaries, right? You need to decide
Yeah,
what you want your business to look like, how you want to feel in your business, what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept. And if you have lousy partners, I'd say you allowed a boundary. You either didn't set a boundary or you allowed it to just be stretched to non existence, right?
true.
So back to that.
Well, Gene, it was so much fun. I've learned so much from you. I knew from the beginning, once we were on the podcast cruise, I knew I would connect with you right away, and I was so glad, or I was really happy that I connected with you. We also spoken before our show, and yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you. You have such a nice energy, and also what I like about you, what I said before, is like you want to get things done. Just move forward, don't complain, and just do it.
Yeah, that's
So
I think that's how I gravitated toward the career that I had for 36 years, the whole leadership thing. And it's like, I don't suffer fools gladly. You decide to do it, you take the steps, you get it done, right? If you don't want it, then don't act like you do. But decide what you want and go for it.
exactly.
Oh,
So, Jean, I really want to thank you for your time for this really powerful conversation. I'm looking forward for you in the future to have another episode. It's going to be more in depth if we're going to do the healing and the pharmaceutical. So, do you also have a free gift for our listeners?
yeah, it's kind of off topic, but it's on topic for any of your folks who are into business at all, or who
Okay.
have a focus on money. And I think most people have some kind of a focus on money. We
Yeah.
talked a little about one of the healing modalities that I use, which is EFT, or emotional freedom technique, or tapping, where you tap on certain points on your body, just like the acupuncture people address certain points on your body. So this is a PDF they can download. They can go through it on their own, or they can look up YouTube videos or contact me or whatever to learn how to do it. But you can learn it just from the PDF. It'll tell you where the points are, and while you're doing that, you're going to say some things about money. And we're going to allow the nervous system, because a lot of people get really tense when they think about money or creating more money, or I'm at the top of my income level. I can't go past it. I've got this ceiling that I need to break, right? So this is just some protocols, some tapping rounds. So that we call that a round of tapping. Okay. Um, that will allow your central nervous system to calm down so that you can make calm decisions about money. Because a lot of times we make decisions about money from a place of fear or stress. And that's not a great place to make any kind of decision, but especially one that's going to determine, your future earning potential, or this is a good or a bad decision as far as a way to utilize this money or invest this money or spend the money or blow the money or whatever. So if they can just download that, it's jeanborder.com/vow, VOW. And again, you can try it out, see how it works. I'd be glad to hear about any results that anyone got from learning the new technique or trying it out.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing, Jean, and also be so open-minded, open-hearted. I really like you. You're really cool.
Thank you.
And the last thing that I, the last thing that I want to to say is, how can they follow you? Do you also have social media and everything?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. It's just Jean Border. You can find me there. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I have a podcast, which is It goes back to me and my background, focused practical dreamer's journey, because I'm all of those things. And I think journey is the most important part of our life. And then the second part of that is energy work to better our business. So, focused practical dreamer's journey podcast, energy work to better your business.
Cool. I really recommend that you follow Jean and look out her stuff. Like I said, she's really cool. I like her vibe. Also on the cruise, we had a lot of fun together. So she's really cool to work with, and also powerful, really powerful in her education and healing world, or in her healing skills and everything that she does. So yeah, it's I really recommend to check her work out. So Jean, thank you so much for your time. It was so much fun. It was so good to see you. And yeah, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing you next month.
Yeah, me too. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Jean.
All
Take
right. Thanks
care.
for having me. Take care.
Hey Lions, thank you for listening on this journey with me to reconnect with your heart. If you like the show, please like and drop a 5-star rating. And to help us keep the show going, consider supporting one of our affiliate offers. How do you raise your vibration? For an easy way to raise your vibration and support your health using biofeedback, check out the Healy tool. I'm a rep for it because I believe in frequency healing. Check the show notes for details. See you next time.